What's up, everybody? Joe White here, and I got to talk about Paul Walter Hauser. Here's a guy who pretty much got his start with I Tonya, is where he first got into the public eye. Did a very good role in that, um, and then he's done Embarrassment. He did the voice of Embarrassment in Inside Out too, and boy, does he have a lot to be embarrassed about. He portrayed Michael Larson in The Luckiest Man in America. Michael Larson, look him up. He's the guy who pretty much figured out the secrets behind the game show Press Your Luck in the 80s and pretty much, you know, beat the system and was the first guy to win $100,000 on TV, as far as a game show goes. He played Harvey Elder slash Mole Man in Fantastic Four First Steps right after that. And it's good. As far as he played in Springsteen Deliver Me from Nowhere, which nobody saw, sadly. But then he does shit like Jackass, okay? And he does, shit like death matches, okay? Cobra Kai, I guess, is where people really stood up and took notice of this guy. And I liked him in Cobra Kai playing the village idiot, so to speak. But Paul Walter Hauser, while he has become one of Hollywood's most recognizable character actors, he's also made it clear that he's a genuine fan of professional wrestling. And he's appeared at several wrestling events, stepped into the ring, embraced the culture in a way that goes beyond celebrity guest appearances. But that's exactly why it's worth talking about wrestling's history. And he kind of badmouthed wrestling's history this past week on X, on Twitter. He was talking about the Mason Rook match on NXT this past week and how, oh, look at the fans. Look at the fans. They're enjoying this. This is wrestling in 2026. And my kids don't know, nor do they care about Nick Bockwinkel because that's just the passage of time. And as time passes, we should forget the past and we should never, we shouldn't educate our kids. Um, Anyone entering the industry, even with good intentions, should understand the baggage that comes with it. That includes celebrities like Paul Walter Hauser, who has most notably gravitated toward trashy death matches and has not exactly shown much technique in the ring. Yes, he could do a senton splash every now and then, and he could pull off a body slam, but so can anybody that is worth their weight in wrestling school. Professional wrestling is one of the most entertaining forms of storytelling in sports and entertainment. It's also an industry that has historically demanded extraordinary sacrifices from the people who built it. For decades, wrestlers worked grueling schedules, performing hundreds of matches a year. There were long drives, limited time off, no health care whatsoever. You wrapped your shit up with a fucking goddamn piece of foam rubber and a damn and some wrist tape, and you went out there and you did it. People working through their injuries instead of recovering from them. Many legendary performers paid for their success with chronic pain, addiction, financial instability, or tragically shortened lives. Nick Bockwinkel is one of the few who took the business seriously, who saved his money, did a damn good job of it, and lived to a really ripe old age and kind of defied the system. Nick Bockwinkel was not only one of the greatest in-ring promos of all time, okay? He with or without Bobby Heenan, he was great. But he was also one of the most technically gifted wrestlers of all time. One of the most over wrestlers of all time. He knew how to take a match and make it mean something with his technique and his selling and his charisma. And he didn't need to fall on fucking thumbtacks to do it. Unlike you, Paul Walter Hauser, who needs that shit to get over. Um, if Hauser is also trying to share that passion with his kids, then he should be teaching them about that past as well, educating them and himself about the sacrifices, mistakes, the technicalities, the storytelling, everything that pro wrestling got right back in the day. He should be wanting to teach his kids about now and himself. Take note when it comes to yourself, Paul Walter Hauser. You should have a deeper appreciation for the industry and help your kids understand why respect for the people who built it matters just as much as the excitement of the matches. Now, to be fair, Paul Walter Hauser has spoken positively about wrestling and shown genuine enthusiasm for it, but there's no indication that he intends to disrespect the industry's veterans or its history. But enthusiasm alone does not make up for the fact that your in ring style has leaned heavily on trashy death matches rather than any technical foundation whatsoever. The point is not that he should not participate, it's the point that participation comes with responsibility. Modern wrestling is in a healthier place than it was decades ago. Wrestlers have more visibility, better travel arrangements in many promotions, greater awareness of concussion protocols. That is genuine progress. Except for the promotions that Paul Walter Hauser chooses to participate in, have none of that because they're performing in audiences who are just in front of audiences who are too drunk to realize that maybe they just should not be watching this. It's just crazy. It is absolutely crazy. You know, the best ambassadors for professional wrestling, they celebrate both its future and its history. Hopefully, that's the approach with more celebrities, including Paul Walter Hauser, and I hope they continue. I hope they take that. Respecting wrestling isn't just about loving the product; it's about understanding and loving everything it took to build it. Okay, there's a reason why football players, you watch a football game, they will bring up a Brett Favre or a Joe Montana every now and then. Aaron Rodgers is still playing, for crying out loud. When it comes to sports like hockey, we still talk about the great one, great Wayne Gretzky. We still talk about, and we will continue to be talking about, Alexander Ovechkin for years to come after he has left the sport. There's a reason why the Atlanta Braves still bring up Chipper Jones on a consistent basis and Hank Aaron on a consistent basis. Baseball itself brings up Hank Aaron on a consistent basis. Why? Because he helped pave the way for those who came after him. Okay? There's a reason why in basketball Michael Jordan is still revered, absolutely revered, all these damn decades later. But when it comes to professional wrestling, we're not supposed to talk about that. We're just supposed to forget about it, and we're not supposed to educate anybody who comes afterwards. You know what this is? This is the same mentality of OVW students way back in like 2008, 2009 that flunked the damn Dr. Death test. They gave everybody Dr. Death's book. They gave them a week to read it. They gave them a test on the book, and about 80% of the 80 to 90% of the students there failed. I think that was down there in Florida Championship Wrestling. Guess what happened to that? It's gone. You need to keep track of wrestling's past. Dusty Rhodes will still be continued to be talked about 30 years from now, God willing. There's a reason why don't bitch too much about Dave Meltzer bringing up people like Danny Hodge every now and then, or Nick Bockwinkel, or even a Carl Gotch, or Edge Strangler Lewis, or a Lou Thez. These are guys, Paul Walter Hauser, that helped get this business to where it is. They're the reason why you have a fucking ring to do your stupid shit in. And the fact that you say, they're just going to forget about it and they're not going to care. That doesn't mean that maybe you should care, dude. You should care. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't care. It means that you should care, and it means that you should educate yourself. And if you feel as passionate about the wrestling business as you claim, you should want to educate your children and anybody else who asks about it. And, if you can't appreciate the past, maybe you shouldn't be in it. If you think the past should just go away and that nobody cares and that's okay, maybe you just shouldn't be in it, dude. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. We'll see you down the road.
This is Jim Corn. The views that I'm about to express You know, a lot of things in the wrestling world make me cranky these days, but who gets a lot of the attention from the wrestling fans especially? Guys like the NWO, whoa, the New World Order. You know, all the fans think these guys are so cool and so sweet and so funny. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the NWO is cool. Eric Bish is a guy who's a big fan of a bunch of guys fighting out in the backyard in a clubhouse in a tree. Who's a big fan of hanging around studly guys with long hair and beards that smoke cigars and ride Harleys so that some of that can rub off on his little pee-pee. You got a guy like Kevin Shash, a teenager, trying to act like he's 40 years old because of an injury that he suffered. He's got 6 moves, no mobility, and no bitches. And what does he do? He leaves and he goes to WCW for a big contract. Why? More on that later. You got a guy like Scott Hall, who's a good wrestler, but good's about it. But he had the same $1 million promotional company make him a star after he busts 3 asses. And what does he do? He goes, do. Why?
More on that later.
There are guys who they got the easiest job in the world. All they have to do is go out there and do themselves. Guys with a case of severe erectile dysfunction. For example, a man like Ann Anderson, who just has a guy like Nature Boy Ric Flair, who, in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest no talent in the business. Guys like Mankind, Jack Dude Love, whatever you want to call him. Great talents in the WWF or WCW. You know why they're all employed, why they're all in the spot they are today? Because of Jim Cornette, the face boss of WCW, not the NWO. Look, he's the boss of WCW. He works for WCW, and that's the sole reason that the NWO guys are employed. I think, me personally, that it's about time that the wrestling fans and the promoters, all of them in this business, started recognizing guys like Jim Cornette, like Eric Bischoff, like Ted Turner, who get to their spot by hanging around with the boss and sucking up penis. Instead of a bunch of guys that work hard and have ability and have talent to get where they are. Meet on nice bitch. I'm Jim Cornette, and that's my opinion.